Hi everyone, hopefully you can all hear me. Welcome to our live stream called Question Time. If you don't know how it works, each week I do a live stream, and these are 4 weekly live streams on rotation, and this week is Question Time. So what is Question Time? Question Time is basically any time for you to ask any question you like, and yeah. So you can ask anything you like. It could be about Unreal Engine 4, could be about game development, could be about my personal history of games, could be anything you really like, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. So yeah, every Saturday or every Sunday rather, midnight GMT, I go live, and yeah. So this week is question time. So if you have a question, throw it up in chat, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. I will have to say straight away, I am very, very sick at the moment. I am, yeah, really ill. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a big cold, so I'm absolutely exhausted and sweaty and gross. So apologies if you hear me heavy breathing or sneezing or coughing or anything like that. But yeah, so I'm barely hanging on. So bear with us, and hopefully I'll get to answering things like that. Okay, so where are we at? Let me try and sort out my panels here. So I've got my screen set up well. Okay, so Kyle, Steve the Tree, what is that? Steve the Tree was a little joke thing that we had set up in our snack size video, where we talked about a hypothetical tree called Steve. Yeah, just a joke. So I made a t-shirt about it very quickly one day. So yeah, bear with us on that one. That is a bit of a joke, but never mind. It's it probably won't last much longer. I'm trying out a new format this week where I put up the questions on the stream. That's so that people in the archive can see the questions being asked as well, nice and clearly, and what ones I'm answering. Just trying to make it as clear as possible. Still working out a good system to do this. So as you can see, it's going off the screen there, so that's kind of pointless. Let's just turn it off. It's not useful, is it? So, Louis Arias, how would I go about implementing a simple turn-based battle system like in a JRPG? Well, it'll be mostly handled in your game mode, or game mode probably, where that will determine that'll control whose turn is what. And it depends what kind of system you're talking about. You could be talking about turn-based, which is a lot easier to do than say a time-based. Like so, Final Fantasy VII, for example, is time-based. So after a certain amount of time, enemy actions are queued. So it depends which way you want to go. Totally up to you. But I do want to try it at some point because I do love JRPGs. I do want to have a crack at making one. It would be quite a large project to do though. Thank you, Rodrigo. Hope I get well soon too. Beyond Brock, can you make a tutorial how to make an in-game option menu for player to change controller inputs? Yes, so this is actually already on the to-do list. It has been up for votes a couple of times. It hasn't won the vote, sadly, yet, but it will get made at some point. So we'll put on, it will be coming out at some point. Don't know when though. It is an interesting one to do, but you can access it. You can probably try and figure it out yourself. Actually, if I just open up a blueprint, the main thing you're using is, if I get some space over here, is oh my cat's walked in now. Get input settings. So this node here returns all those input settings you have in your project settings, and then from there you could probably suss what you got to do. So here I can get action mappings by name, and I could get an array out that gets all the mappings I have based on that action. So you can mess about with this, and you can probably try and figure it out, but it will get made at some point. Kim, North, Ryan, I am working with a line tracing right now and stumbled across out hit impact point and out hit impact normal. Do you know the difference between the two, and when would you use the latter? So impact point is the location of the line trace hitting. So when you do a line trace, that little square that comes out, I don't know if I have enough time to fuck a line trace in this thing. Hang on, line trace. So channel. So what Kim's referring to here is on a line trace you have out hit location, out hit impact point, and out hit normal. So out hit location is the location of the actor that's been hit, I believe, whereas this is the actual point where it's been hit. The normal is the sort of the direction, the vertices of that polygon that is hit, or try it's hit, is facing. So if you want to get the angle of something, you use out hit normal, for example. A normal is, in 3D modeling terms, is the perpendicular, by default is perpendicular to a vertice. We can alter those normals with normal maps and things like that, and they handle the lighting predominantly, but we can use it in this case to work out the direction a face is facing. Mootsie Cat, in the game Dead by Daylight, players try to start generators to escape. How do they keep up with how much work has been done to a generator and how much each person contributed? Okay, so in the game Dead by Daylight, players try to start generators to escape. How to keep up with how much work has been done to a generator? How much? Okay, so I'm guessing then they have the generator actor. So we have like an actor here. That we call generator. And your generator, when you're do the event of do a custom event, for example here, repair generator. Your repair generator, you may have an input on there such as the actor that has repaired it, and this actor then can be stored in an array as a variable to determine how much they've done. Chances are you would do it as a map variable. If I just quickly do this, do actor and change it to a map. You got actor, and you can choose two variable types. So you've got actor here and integer here. So if I was to call this repair gen, I would send this actor into this variable type and increase its integer. And basically it's like a dictionary. So you have the actor as a key, and integer values the things that can be changing. So you just search for the actor that, if it matches already this one, if it already exists, you just increase the integer by 1. That's the way I'll do it. Yeah. So if I do miss your question, just post it again. It will probably I'll probably catch it in that one. Marvin Cruz, are you familiar with the game Trine? It has mechanics wherein you swap between 3 characters on a fly, like pressing 1, 2, or 3. What do you think is the best way to go about it? Very simply, you have your 3 characters, the AI characters and your player character. All of them have controllers, so the player controller is obviously controlling the one the player is controlling, and the AI controllers are playing the other ones. So when you're switching to a different character, you want to change the possession of that pawn. So actors come in two things predominantly. So for example, in this template here, this is a third person character, and this is what we call a pawn. Okay, it's like a puppet, and this pawn is controlled by a controller. Now by default, the one in this one is set to be auto possessed by the player controller, because if I open this up and on its default settings here, I can see auto possess player, auto possess AI, and AI controller class. So if I wanted to, I can change the possession. So if you right click, you can actually see the possession thing. You've got 2 events but as soon as you're possessed, So as soon as you possess this one, you want to switch it to the player controller. So if I do controller, you can. Oh, I forgot what to call it. Hang on. It is. It could be just no. What is one? It's one of these ones. I just type in possess, sorry, and tick off context. So it's this one, possess. So you want possess. Oh, right, you've got to plug a controller into it. So if you're going to possess it, you need to put in the controller that it's going to be the possessing, and the pawn that is going to be possessed. So this thing could be itself, and this target controller could be the player controller, for example. And when you've done that, then this one could be turned to do anything you want, like highlight, change the location, change the camera, whatever it may be, or if it's AI, do different things. But this will trigger when you switch between AI controller or player controller, because an AI controller still counts as possessing. So you could change to possess here. The target is controller, so it'd be an AI or player controller, and the pawn will be whatever the pawn character is. Hope that makes sense. M3 Plum. I made a lock-on targeting system. The camera locks on and the model runs fine in blend space one direction. When I switch to a blend space for strafing, the camera faces the target but the model won't rotate to target. Can't figure out how to get the model to rotate. When I switch to a blend space for the strafing, the camera faces the target but the model won't rotate to target. M3 Plum, that could be several things. It could be quite a lot of things, really. So I'm not entirely sure where to start with that one. Yeah, that could be a lengthy conversation. Things to look for are your controller settings and your camera settings. So the camera, for example, you've got things like use the pawn control rotation. You've got if you've got boom, you have inherits going on. Your blend space could be broken or doing something weird. Animation system could be doing something weird. There's unfortunately quite a lot of places where that could go wrong, and without taking a look at it deeply, it's hard to say or give you good advice on that, I'm afraid. I mean, if your camera's facing the target, but your model won't rotate the target, you can make your model focus onto the target using the focus node. I don't know if that'll work, but you can try it. So, turn context back on. Oh, hang on. I need controller. So you get player controller, focus. No, it's Magic Leap. What's it called? Let's turn the context sensitive off. Where is it? It's for AI only. Okay, maybe not. I'm not too sure about that one. Sorry. Yomi, you're right. I'm working on an FPS game. I was wondering if you can make a tutorial on bullet penetration on different materials like Rainbow Six Siege. That's a cool, interesting one. Yeah, I can add it to the list of things to do. I have to play about with it and see how I come across the solution to that one. But yep, we can take a look at that. Kim North, I've decided to not work for the rest of the year and instead focus on building my Unreal skills at home. I've gone through a number of your tutorials. Are there any resources you can recommend? What? I don't know where to start. I mean, there are tons of other good YouTubers out there that do stuff too. Check them out. I'm sure you already have seen them. They're the main big ones. Beyond that, I'm trying to think what would be good for your Unreal skills. Go to there are various websites I like to use. So 80.level is a good one. All the GDC talks are great insight into problem solving. So with with games design and game development, a lot of it's problem solving. So here's the tools, you've got to try and figure out the solution to it. I'd recommend you go to like the GDC Vault, and there you see the game developers talking about the problems they had to overcome. For example, there's one great one about Epic talking about Fortnite and how they had to overcome lighting in their game. Because they can't bake lighting because it is a destructible environment, they have to use something else. And they talk about their problem solving in that regard. It's really clever, interesting way of using tools that are there doing other things to accomplish different tasks. Really good talks. I learned a lot from them, so I recommend those. Insurgent, thank you for your love of my tutorials. I'm glad you find them helpful. Aikidoka, any chances for us to get in the future a more complex AI tutorial to make the Sims-like AI with NPCs doing things based on the needs or personalities? They're based on how to do that. Yeah, we can get. I'm hoping to eventually cover a large range of AI that you see in games, and eventually covering things like AI that require needs. That's quite simple to actually do. You just have to tag things with certain keywords. So if there's a water source, you could say water. So when a thing sees it's thirsty, you can tell it to go find something, the nearest thing with a tag of water, and it'll go look for the nearest water source. If you want to get really fancy, you can give those priority. So if you gave the AI the instruction to find water, they'll not only just find things with the closest tag, but will prioritize those with a higher priority value. This is just an integer that you assign it. So it'll make a list and then sort that list and find the one it wants to use best. So for example, if you want the Sims to drink water from the toilet bowl as a last-ditch result, if there's no access to water anywhere else, then they will do that. So you can do things in that regard. But yes, using tags is the way I'll do it. Adam Sweeney, how to go about points of interest on a big map. I need to add an icon at a location of a door in the 3D world, so it shows up on the UI map. That way, map will show up red or green mark if the door is locked. Okay, so I assume you've watched my minimap series then, Adam, when I've done it on a minimap. To get onto a large map, oh god, we're going back now. I made that series about over a year ago now. It's the same sort of concept, so you've still got to translate the coordinates of the world into the coordinates of the size of the map. So you have to look at the ratio difference between the two and then use that to work out the coordinates on the screen of where you place the point of interest icon. So we did that very similar thing with the minimap, where we worked out the location of it from a 3D space to a 2D space. So without being able to just sit here for half an hour to an hour showing you the actual exact blueprint code, that's the best I can really advise you in this regard. Hopefully I'll get around to doing something similar to that. Excuse me. So if you just joined us, sorry, I'm got a really bad cold, so if I'm sneezy or coughy or sound gross, that's why. Philippe Santos, how can I use an item inside my inventory pressing a button? For example, I have a life potion in my inventory. It said open it. I want to push a key to use it. Oh, right, okay. So I assume, Philippe, you've seen all of my inventory series. So one of the last videos was the inventory query. So on your UI, when you every now and then you want to update your UI when it's appropriate to do a query to find out if you've got, say, a magic health potion in your inventory. If you have, then you want to indicate to the player that you can push a button to just use this. And when you push that button, you simply access your inventory array. Because keep in mind, all that data is stored in an array. It doesn't matter about the UI. The UI is just a visual representation of that array. So you can do whatever you want to that array that you got there. So when you push the button, you just find the item in that array from the inventory query, and then from that you just take one away from it. All in all games, how would you go about setting up team deathmatch? I assume you're talking about online team deathmatch. What kind of things do you need to know all in all games? Because online multiplayer is a massive hurdle and a big kettle of fish that once you start opening up, it gets very complicated. So you can specify what you want to know about it. That'd be great. Kuroshima Ashiro Uma. Sorry if I pronounce any of your names wrong. They're all lovely. How much do decals and vertex painting impact performance? Not. I mean, not as much as you'd probably think. Decals used everywhere in games. Absolute tons of them. So it's not going to do anything. Vertex painting, very similarly, is not going to. Vertex painting in it of itself isn't impacting performance. However, to do a good vertex painting, you need a higher resolution model, and higher resolution models, because they increase the vertices, will impact performance. So the actual painting itself doesn't. It's the vertices, number of vertices that you need to paint on does. It's when rendering, the thing that increases performance is vertices. If you have more vertices in your scene, that's what's going to cause performance issues. Actual rendering of images and colors, that's not so bad. It's the vertices that matter, because colors are tied to vertices. So more vertices you have, the more detail you have, therefore more problems you may have. But my rule of thumb is do not worry about optimization until you're at the end. Get your game made and then worry about optimization. Otherwise, you'll forever worry about optimization and never actually complete your game. Kim North, one gap I've noticed are good tutorials explaining building materials. Could we have tutorials on explaining the foundation of material building, please? I understand it's a broad topic. Building, like materials, like textures and materials. I thought you were talking about like bricks and concrete. Yes. I do plan to do a lot more stuff with materials. I'll tell you guys now, there are a series of series coming out designed for those who are completely new to games development, coming out relatively soon. I've planned the first series, that's for complete beginners, and it's to make a whole, like just a game. More details on that to come. But what would be quite good about that one is the whole series will be released to patrons on patreon.com/RyanAiley for straight away, and everyone else will get weekly episodes. No problem, Philippe. Thanks for coming by and asking a question. Rodrigo Vieira. I'm working on a climb system. I want to make the character ragdoll on entering the ledge, making his hand attach the ledge. Then he'd return to normal climb animation. Know a good method. So, Rodrigo, are you talking about those sort of like quap type games where you push keys and it ragdolls and you let go of the key and it grabs? How would I do that? I mean, yes, it's a mixture of IKs. So you want to look up how to handle IK placement and interactions. And I mean, you can go ragdoll and you can control individual components of a ragdoll, I believe. I haven't played about with that, so I'm just going off the top of my head how I'd possibly, where I'd start with it. And I think I would start by looking at if it is possible to control individual bones, and that would be handled by an IK system. So look up IK systems and look at how they do it, and I think that's your best bet. And that'll give you more realistic animations as well when it comes to ragdoll. Excuse me, I just need to take a sip of my drink. Oh dear. Vince Carter, how can you do an 8-directional roll? I know how to do 4 directions with input key down, but 2 input key downs don't work. Okay, so right, so what you want to do is when you push the roll button, it depends on the way your controls set up. So I'm guessing you're doing just as soon as you push the key, it'll roll. So for example, most games you'd hold a direction and push a dodge button and then it'll roll. I'm guessing you're not doing the combo button, you're just doing push the direction, off you go. In that case, you won't be able to do the input keys down. Instead, what you'll have to do is, if I can show you, is in your inputs here. Is it going to show? Oh, yeah. Got to close this. On your inputs, you'd have a action called dodge, and in all of these, you'd have the various keys. So, for example, I can go left arrow. What do I call it? Left on keyboard. I can have another one for right, and so on and so forth. And then when you do the dodge event, you check what keys have held down and build an array from that, and then from there you can choose which direction to go in. Rather than, I'm guessing what you've got currently is dodge left, dodge right, dodge so forth as separate inputs. Sorry, I'm really sniffy, sorry. Oh, God, I feel gross. I'm so messed up. All in all games, just Team Deathmatch. I have replication figured out. I just don't know how to set up the actual game mode like best of 20 or sudden death. It's totally up to you. So when a character dies, you can take it from the points on the game mode. You just get the game mode, cast the game mode, and do whatever you want with it. So a score, count up to 20, or stock, whatever you want to do. It'd be interesting to see whereabouts you're falling down on. But yeah, you just get game mode, cast a game mode, and the game mode then controls all of the win and lose states. Kim North, could we get a tutorial for building an atmosphere for a horror game? For example, playing with lighting, fog and rain, etc. Yes, but just don't know when. Yeah, I've got a few things to do first, but yeah, eventually I want to get to all that. I'd say Unreal's full of stuff. Eventually getting there. Hello, I can't pronounce your Russian name, so I'm going to call you what it looks like, Anpen. I don't know how you pronounce it, so hello. Sorry for my Russian, I am English. Revenge Gaming, can you tell me how to deal with light maps, especially complex meshes? And is it true when you bake, let's say, a mesh with 5, 12, 1 and K light map resolution, once it's baked, it doesn't affect performance anymore? Yeah, so the way lighting works in games is that you typically bake as much lighting as you can. And if you don't know what baking means, anyone, baking means taking the lighting data in your world and basically painting the textures with that light map data. So I can show an example of this actually in this here. If I just make this a bit bigger so you can see it a bit neater. So here we have a world. Okay, let's just delete this thing. And it's got baked lighting at the moment. So these shadows aren't real shadows. These are baked shadows. They're on the actual texture. So if I was, for example, move this out of the way, see the painting is still there. It's still painted the bake. And because I've moved it, the game engine's detected that I've moved it, and therefore you can see lighting needs to be rebuilt. It's basically it's telling me like, oh, you need to repaint this because now this shadow here is what we call dynamic. And this is what's performance heavy, okay? Because it's doing dynamic lighting. However, it won't show up properly if we have just static light. I think it's currently set to movable light, the directional light, so that's why you're still seeing it. But you can see here the baked lighting is still there. And you can see the player isn't affected by that shadow. Okay. However, because we need to bake lighting, if we bake the light by going build lighting. Oh, yeah, sure. It's going to essentially repaint the textures with that lighting detail. Now, light maps don't need to be high resolution at all. They can be quite low. In fact, lower the better, because obviously the high resolution texture you have, the more performance it drags. So typically we have quite low resolution light maps. Light maps can be quite messy and confusing to do. There are tons of tutorials out there to do it, but I'll do one hopefully at some point in the future We're talking about game art, for example. Okay. Look at this chat. Sorry. Code Hugger. I am making a mobile game and would like to know how to size the user interface to fit different screen sizes. Okay, so screen sizes. If we go widget blueprint. Okay, so the screens, you can test screen sizes in your widget blueprint by going to screen size up here and choosing a phone of your like. So I currently have a Pixel 2, in fact, so I can click on there and I'll get the size of my Pixel 2. And you've got various settings here where you can zoom in and flip it from landscape to portrait, like so. So you can test out the UI for that. Now, when you're using user interface stuff, the main thing you want to use is the canvas panel, because the canvas panel fills up the whole entire thing and it's absolute positioning. So for example, if I put in some text there, okay, and because it's anchored to this top corner here, no matter what size this screen is, it will always be relative distance to that top corner. So for example, if I change this size now from a Pixel to a iPhone XS, you can see it's changed. It's given us the tapers, but you can also see the distance relative is the same. It's good. Okay, so you want to make sure this anchor is in the correct location of where you want to anchor it to. So for example, if this was over here, but I can change the anchor to, so the bottom corner here is now relative to the position like so. So that will break things when I start doing something like changing to a smaller size screen. You can see here it's kept that distance relative, however it's now off the screen because I haven't placed it really in a smart location. I've been a bit stupid with it. So place your items, your widgets and panels and things like that near the anchors that you want to be. Okay, and you can change the anchors, which you saw I did over here, to various locations. But with the canvas panel will allow it to fill the whole entire screen. So if you do it the way I do it, where I have the canvas panel be the main HUD, and then I have a load of other widgets inside of it, and then located somewhere on the HUD, then it will always stay and remain on the screen and cover the whole entire screen. So I've got to blow my nose and stuff. Ugh. Akidoka. Another question towards animation and morphs. Have any way to make an animation adjust itself like a walk animation? If I have a fat morph and make a character too fat, then when walking. Yeah, I mean, you can do anything, so yeah, you definitely can do it. How you do it though, you just have to add into your animation blueprint another variable such as weight of the character, and then make that affect the speed they can walk in. And that could be, well, that could be an animation or the player character. It's up to you. Kill B creations. Can you make a player go ragdoll on command and then back to normal in UE4? Let's try it, shall we? It's a relatively quick thing to do. So my third person character here, I'm going to we'll do it with these what key am I using? The G key. Set physics. Oh, I have to get the mesh first. Mesh. Set. Set physics enabled. Where is it? Set simulate physics. To there. And we'll flip flop. And when it's A, it'll do that. Okay, so this should toggle ragdoll off and on in my head. So yes, it kind of works. You have to just tell it to probably have to work a bit more than that. But it'd be similar to this. So you have to set simulate physics and turn the animation graph off, I'm guessing. Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny one. But yeah, something like that. Because the physics is what handles the ragdoll. So if you have a character out, so like here, for example, and I'll just turn on physics, like so. He's not falling down. It's probably because there's a player controller associated to it, or I don't know, it could be all sorts of things. But collision enabled is incompatible. Oh, right, you have to change collision on it. So let's have a look at that. So where's the collision on it? Mesh collision ragdoll. So you can turn it to ragdoll physics. So go collision preset. No, not going to do that. Set collision. What would be a good name for it? Be one of these ones. Anything that you see in the details panel, by the way, such as this collision presets, should be in this list. It's just a matter of what they've called it. Set collision profile name? No. No, not going to be ragdoll, is it? Just collision. No. No, it's somewhere in there. You can change it to ragdoll physics in the collision as well, but it's something like that, I would imagine. So I'm going back on the questions, make sure I've covered everything I can. So Akidoka, the animation will adjust the arm space to make the arms don't pocket in the body mesh. I'm sorry, I don't understand. It may be a broken English. I'm not 100% sure of what you're asking there, Akidoka. If you're able to reword it, or if someone else can help him out with that, that'd be great. Bruno Conclaves, hello, could make a tutorial on how to make the system drag a weapon from inventory to the slot, and then show the weapon itself, and then return inventory as a normal widget. PUBG style. Yeah, I want to do more inventory stuff because there's tons of ways of doing inventory. They all follow the same sort of method where you have an array, inventory array, and it's just a matter of displaying it differently. So I do want to show various ways of doing inventories. That's what I tried doing in the equipment series, to show that way of doing inventory. But I say it all follows the same sort of principle where you have an array storing those inventory items. Kim North, non-Unreal related question. Did you watch the new Death Stranding in-game footage this week? What are your thoughts? Death Stranding, it looks like a Hideo Kojima game. I'll play it because that man's crazy and I want to see what kind of crazy he comes out with. How much game there is, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from that. It's so tied up and hidden. I have no idea what to expect. Is it online? I don't know. They say it is, but who knows? I'm interested in that game just because it's just a big question mark. So yeah, cool. I'm up for it. I like Kojima's work. It's nuts. It's pretentious, but it's kind of fun pretentious. Yeah, good fun. Akidoka, I would love to see a tutorial about how to make a material customization system for the character to show how to change the skin type, color, how to add effect masks like wounds or makeups. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's not too difficult. I mean, we can make a very quick, I don't know actually, say very quick way to change colors very easily. But yeah, we can do that. Can you do all in all games? Can you do a melee combat tutorial series? Yeah, what kind of stuff would you guys like to see in a melee combat series? I have thought about doing one, but I don't know what kind of stuff you want to see. Do you want to see something like Devil May Cry or like Batman, or I don't know? What kind of game melee combat do you want me to try and replicate? I'm happy to give it a shot. James Jams. Hello. I don't have a specific question, but I do like your videos and thought I could learn something from you either way. I thought I could learn something from this either way. Oh, thanks, James. Also, hope everyone in the chat is doing good today. Yeah, me too. Code Hugger, thank you. I've just one more question. My game looks great in PC. However, when I put it in a phone, old phones such as the LG J13, the graphics are very low. I wonder if there's any fix to optimize it. Unfortunately, you may be limited to the hardware of the phone itself. Phones are very difficult to make games for because the hardware changes very rapidly. So, unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. You can do level of detail stuff in your game to try and optimize it there, but that's as far as I can think you can go. It's like a million and one things it could be to try and make it look better. There are various things you can do, like draw distances and things like that, to help improve it. Again, check out some GDC talks. There's some good ones on there about stuff like that, how people solve that problem. Akidoka, I wanted to means, for example, if the animation was made for a non-fat character, then your arms would be close to the body in the walk animation. Then if you try to use that same animation, so you want to use the same animation, you can use the same animation, you just need to use a different skeletal pose. So long as it's got the same bone names, things like that, it should be alright. You just need to make a different skeleton and make the animation work for it, which would be no problem if you name the bones the same as the other one. Kim North. Is it a lot of work to get an NPC to disappear and reappear elsewhere, like a ghost, or like Ninja from the original Metal Gear Solid? Not at all. You just tell it to move to a different location by doing set actor location. As simple as that, really. And it will disappear from one place and go to another. Rodrigo Vieira. Ryan, you have to disable capsule collision for the capsule and enable them on the mesh. Oh, we're talking about the thing. Sorry, I'm going back on my chat log. Yes, that is for the ragdoll. Yeah. If you want the arms, Akidoka, you're asking if the arms will adapt to the mass of the body. How would you do that? Not entirely sure how you do that. The only thing that comes to mind is you have to manually tell it the animation for the shoulders to rotate the arms a bit more. I'm not entirely sure how to do that. Okay, I'm afraid. Sorry. I wish I had a better answer. I'm not entirely sure I've seen it done before either. HDG Doom Knight. A melee system like Mountain Blade where you have to move your cursor to hit block in different directions. That would be awesome. That would be awesome too. I could investigate and get back to you on that one. Again, I'll add it to a list. No ETA when that could appear, but yep. Code Hugger. Also, I'm making an infinite runner, but I'm running into a problem that at a certain point the map ends and my character's auto-destroyed. How would I fix this? So if you're doing an infinite runner, you have to do something called procedural generation. Procedural generation means that you're building the world as it loads. And the easiest way of doing it, an infinite runner, and I've seen some bad tutorials on the infinite runners. I won't name names, but there are YouTube channels out there who are getting you guys to make an infinite runner where the character's actually moving through a world. That's really bad because eventually you'll go through the sky sphere and into black abyss. That's not an infinite runner. An infinite runner, the trick is to make the character run on the spot and make the world move past the player. And that's how you do that. Yeah, so don't actually make it actually physically run through the world. You just make the level slide underneath the player's feet and make the animation of the player look like it's running. That's the way you handle that sort of thing. Yeah, don't I won't say the names of the channels because I don't like bad mouth channels, but don't follow ones that tell you make the character actually run along an actual physical world, because eventually you get outside the sky sphere. The sky sphere isn't infinite. It is large, but it is not infinite. So, for example, you could end up outside of it and into basically nothingness. So be very, very aware of that. How about an entity which defies gravity, i.e. flying around whilst chasing you or running away? Is that difficult? I've been brainstorming a way of how to do flying AI, and I think that'd be one of the next ones I do after shooter AI, is how to make a flying AI. So we're going to make it like a space sim shooter like Eve, where AI will fly around and shoot at you. I've got ideas about that, and it's a way of using the EQS system and using custom generation to create a 3-dimensional nav mesh. I don't think it's difficult, but I've only done it in my head. I haven't actually tried it yet. Edis Lido, what is best practice for AI navigation and not getting stuck on swinging doors? My AI overlaps the door trigger, but the AI gets blocked by the door itself. You just make the door not shut on the AI. So you make the door, before it shuts, just check if the AI is still in its trigger box. If it's not in its trigger box, close it. If it is, don't close. That's the easiest way of doing it. Yeah, James Jams, yeah, so Infinite Runner. Yeah, just make it run on the spot. That's the way pretty much all good Infinite Runner games are made. Yeah, sorry, I've got to sort myself out. Get uncomfortable. Oh, God. Code Hugger, what about generating random buildings and things in the background? I've tried making an array of static meshes and setting the static mesh to a random index of the array, but is there a better way? No, that's pretty much the way you do it. Just make it randomized in an array of indexes of different static meshes. That's pretty much it. There's not much to it than that. Kim North, how about cameras inside closed spaces for third-person games? It's fine outdoors, but what do you need to do to look out for when inside houses, for example? The collision can be awkward, right? The collisions can be awkward, but your camera boom does have a collision on it, so you can... it does work with that. So, for example, when I go here, it's pushed by the wall. So you can make your camera boom actually have collision on it. The default third-person character has that. I have been playing around with making a camera system as well for third person that isn't as dynamic as this. So this is what I call dynamic camera control, where you have full control over the camera. The other extreme of this is fixed camera control. That's sort of like your old Resident Evils, where it's fixed camera position and you run around in that space. And then the other one to that is what I like to call active. So this is active, what I like to call dynamic camera control, in that it's fixed but still rotates and follows a player around the level, and that's sort of like how Uncharted does it in some sections, and Tomb Raider, things like that. So Devil May Cry is another good one for that. So it's like it's on a track, but the track's quite loose and flimsy with it. So I've been playing around with making an active and dynamic camera system interchangeable like that. Edis Lido, the problem with the AI and the door is that sometimes the AI approaches the door from the side. So when the door swings open, the door itself blocks the AI from moving forward. So, Edis, have you seen my hinge door tutorial series where I'll use a dot product to find out which way the target is facing? Look at that, and if you have used that, then to make it more accurate, you want to round the dot product to make sure it's actually within 0.5, that sort of dead zone. So if the dot product is, say, 0.1, it won't open. If it's greater than 0.5 or less than minus 0.5, then it will open in the direction it wants to open. That way it will only open when you're actually facing it directly rather than approaching it from a slight angle. But yeah, check out that video. It's the hinge door video. Earthborn Gym, great name. Hi Ryan, thanks for all the videos. They've helped me immensely. I wouldn't suppose you have any videos or links to ways on how to implement a temperature system into a game like The Long Dark. I don't think I've played The Long Dark. I don't know what it does. A temperature system. Just handle that. It depends. You can put it in any location. I mean, you could make volumes which keep track of, so you have volumes here. So you can make a volume actor or use one of these ones to control what areas are hot and what areas are dark. You could do that, and then the temperature is being controlled in like the level blueprint or the game mode somewhere central. So anything that's affecting it can go directly to that. But yeah, if you explain how Long Dark does it, I can give you a bit more specific answer. Vince Carter, is it better for performance to put all your code in functions, or can you keep your blueprints messy? You can keep your blueprints messy. Why? I don't know why you would. It's better having functions because if it's easier to solve problems later on. It is not any performance problems on it. The only difference is it makes it easier for you and anyone working with you. If someone gave me spaghetti code, if I joined a project and gave me spaghetti code, I'd probably have to shoot myself because it's really hard to go through. It goes through with normal like C++ or C#. If people don't comment or use functions or inheritance, things like that, it makes it really hard to change things and fix things. And I usually spend my first half of my job going through it and fixing those things. So always use functions, avoid messy code as much as possible. If you find yourself repeating even a little bit, put in a function. Code Hugger, thank you for your answers. You're welcome. If you may leave a suggestion, you're more than welcome to. I would like to see a survival series of a game like Ark Survival. I know how to recreate most of it myself, but I have some doubts, thanks. What do you have doubts about, Code Hugger? Let me know. Yeah, I would like to do survival at some point. Again, it's on the list. It's just a load of things to do before I get to that point. Kim North, do you think in the future we will see entire games in Unreal being built using blueprints alone, or do you think people will choose to stick with C++? Kim, they are already being built using blueprints alone. There are some games out there which are built solely in blueprints, and just because you and as evidence of how good it is, you have not noticed that they've been built. There's one game such as Snake Pass. I don't know if you've heard of Snake Pass, but Snake Pass is a game wholly built in blueprints. The difference between blueprints and C++ is getting very minimal. So yeah. James Jams, hey, this is more of a graphical question, but it came to my mind because it relates to a project I'm currently working on. So, in my game, I've created a pixel shader, but I was curious how you could make a dithering effect for shadows. A dithering effect. Oh. It depends on how much the dither is. You probably want to. I'm guessing on the pixel shader. I'm not a graphical person, coder, so I would imagine what you're doing is you're looking for a shaded pixel in the pixel shader, and then telling it to ignore the next number of pixels, and then shading another pixel. It depends on the kind of dithering you're going for. If you're doing exactly pixel 1 pixel wide dithering, then it'd be every other pixel will be shadowed, so you could tell it not to work on every other shadow, every other pixel. Yeah, I have no idea. That's how in my head it looks. But yeah, dithering effect, that'd be cool to see. I haven't seen that, I think, before in a game. That'd be cool to see. Sorry, bad movie. Core to Lord. I want to make a character jump over a low wall, but more like a hop. Hands rest on top on the low wall first. Would it make sense to use IK to rest the hands on top of the wall first? You can do. Games have done two methods. One is IKs, where you place hands on the wall and then do an animation. Or you make all your walls the same height and make the player just have a canned animation. Obviously, the walls at the same height is the most efficient and the easiest and less performance hungry, whereas IKs are more performance hungry and a lot more time consuming. So it's up to you how you run your project. I've seen both. So, for example, in Gears of War, or if you've noticed, all the walls are the same height, regardless of where you are in the world. They're all the same height. So when the player runs their animations, it just goes over. Code Hugger. Your doubts. So this is your doubts about Ark survival. Setting up a good inventory and equipment system similar to how Ark does it. I haven't played Ark for a very, very long time, so I have to go back and have a look at how they do it, and then I can make another. I said earlier I want to make more inventory system series, so I'll go back and have a look at how Ark done it, and I have to let you know. You're welcome, James. Yeah, so I haven't done much with pixel shaders before, or any shaders before. I've done a little bit a while back, but that's the only way that comes to mind anyway. While waiting for more questions, I'll pitch to you a couple of things. So, if you don't know, we have started the Shooter AI tutorial series. There are 8 episodes currently available on my Patreon, on patreon.com/RyanLaley. If you want to watch all of them right now, all you need is $1 a month to see those. Otherwise, they come out every Thursday. And so far, where we're at in it, on Patreon, is the enemy is now finding cover, hiding behind cover, and shooting from that cover. And we're about to go into improving that, and then we'll go into flanking and more stuff like that. So that'd be quite cool. HDG Doom Knight. I would like to know how to implement destructible meshes. For example, when a player shoots a wall, the wall loses HP, and finally, when reaching 0, the wall should collapse. Okay, so destructible meshes. A few things. Unreal 4 has destructible meshes in it already. So if we go to edit, I think it's editor preferences. I think it's in here. Nope, it must be in project settings. Oh, it's in plugins. It's one of them. No, oh goddamn! It must be in plugins. Unless I've taken it out of 2.2. So they've got destruction. Okay. There are in 2.3, however, not 2.3, 4.23, bringing in a new destruction system. So wait until 4.23 for a new destruction system. I think they call it Chaos. Check out videos of that. They've got a new video on it. That'll overtake this one. So wait for 2.3. Yeah, the Chaos system looks really cool. Because the destruction system in this one, like the Apex one, is alright. It's fiddly, but could be better. And it's not blueprint focused. It's more set up. It's kind of fixed in that regard. So the Chaos system looks good. So check it out in 4.2.3. Should be hopefully out soon. I can't wait to try it out. Is it 2.3 or 2.4? I can't remember now. Whatever the next one is. Edius Lido. Regarding new shooter AI tutorials, would you be able to delve more into how AI will behave in multiplayer situations? Most of the time it seems like we are only referring to one player character. The reason why we by default refer to one player is because multiplayer is hard. Online multiplayer anyway is hard. So AI is typically AI multiplayer works very much the same as single player in regards to their actual AI behavior trees. All you're doing is then replicating various things on them. So their character movement and location, all that is replicated anyway by default, I believe anyway. It used to be, should still be, replicated by default. So that'll work straight away. And then all you have to do is replicate custom functions like shooting, finding cover, things like that. So yeah, we're referring it to one player sense, but if you understand how multiplayer works, you should be able to replicate it no problem, because it is exactly the same. Your AI works on the client level, and then it'll then replicate that AI over to the connected clients. So they're all synced up. But yeah, everything's referred to in one player because it is difficult to do multiplayer. The setup for it anyway. But everything's pretty much similar except for replication of whatever function you need. Most of the time in AI, though, you're just replicating the location, the rotation, aiming, the basic controller inputs of it, and then obviously when it shoots and ducks and things like that. Okay, again, we'll wait a couple more minutes. We'll keep going for a couple more minutes before we call it a night. I say it is quite late. Well, I say it's 1 o'clock in the morning here for me, and if you don't know, I'm very ill and I'm very tired. I need some rest. I've got a barbecue to go to tomorrow as well, which I'm looking forward to because I love barbecue. So that'd be good fun. Whilst waiting for more questions, we are also going to be releasing a new series coming out soon. It's been planned, just need to record it, and that is how to make your first game in Unreal Engine 4. So it's designed for completely new people joining Unreal, and I'm planning on releasing 3 tutorial series regarding this. One is a basic intro to Unreal, so making a simple game in that, and it'd be like 7 episodes long to make a simple game, and then an intermediate one, and then an advanced one doing more complicated stuff. After that, we're looking at material series and so forth. So designed for like beginner, medium, and expert level. These series are designed in a way so it actually is useful for people. Again, I'm not going to drag any names for the dirt when you're looking at other YouTubers making these video tutorial series. But when someone says to you, "Hey, let's make a whole game for you. Hey, welcome to Unreal Engine 4. Let's make a whole game. Let's make an FPS. Let's make an MMO. Let's make an RPG." That's kind of bad because you're setting up people to fail, because there's no way in hell you're going to finish that tutorial series. And you probably have seen them. They start these series and don't finish them. And therefore you don't really learn anything. And technically you're not really learning anything because you're just copying someone just making an FPS, RPG, MMO. If anyone says to you, "Hey, let's make an MMO," that's so dumb. Like, MMOs are hard. That's not going to learn anything from there. Be an expert. So the basic game, we're not going to make a Pong. So we're not going to make Pong. We're not going to make anything's Infinite Runners. Not going to make anything like that. So what I do with my students, if you don't know, I'm a real life teacher. I do games development teaching in real life, and what I do with my students is we do a basic maze game, and then we do intermediate one. We do a shooter, like R-type, where you control a little spaceship shooting enemies flying at you, and then we do finally a platformer. So 3 types of games where. And the reason why we do those 3 is because they're expandable. So if we make, for example, Pong, you're kind of limited in that you can make 2 buttons, bat a ball back and forth, and that's about it. But with a maze game, we could do various things onto it. For example, we could just have it, so if we've got keys in it, we can put traps in it. We could also try and make enemies for it. Like, you can eventually make Pac-Man. So mazes are quite good in that effect when we come to challenges, and that's the way I'm setting up these series. That there'll be, I think it's the first one will have 7 episodes, and the last episode is a challenge episode where I'll set up challenges for you to go away and do. So taking everything you've learned from these episodes, can you go away and make these challenges to make a game? The plan is that if you follow these 6-7 episodes, you'll have a game at the end of it. It'll be a very small game, but that's exactly what your first game should be. So Earthborn Jim. I have a first-person character, and as such, only have arms and no body. Do you know any easy way to go about doing footstep sounds or for this? Normally, I would use an anim notifier on third person, but what about FP? If you're doing it depends. The easiest way of doing it on first person is ideally have like a walking animation for your gun, so when you walk you bob. I don't know, I ain't got a first person project open, but on the first person project you should have like a bob to animation, so do it on that animation, the sound effects notifiers on that. Other than that, then you'll have to do a timer based on their speed. I mean, you could do the vectors and then check if the vector is at a certain interval. So every 10th vector position, it will make a sound effect. But I don't know how that would work. The easiest way is, as you said, an anim notifier. But ideally, you make a walking animation for your gun, or else it looks like it's floating. Which it is. If it is floating, then you don't need sound effects. James Jams, yeah, don't make an MMO. It's so dumb. Yeah. The biggest mistakes I see when it comes to people making their first games is people saying they want to make an MMO, a battle royale, or an RPG. All very complicated, all very large games. So I'd avoid doing it. Pick something you want to. When you're starting a games development, you want to start on something that is small and achievable. It is much more rewarding to walk away with a complete game than a half-assed, unfinished game that doesn't work or make sense or anything like that. So that's my philosophy when it comes to teaching you guys games and how to make them. So the first series, I say, is going to be a maze game for basics. So you're going to learn the basics, and I recommend everyone look at it because you may learn something new. But if anything, it'd be good to get you guys to see how well you do on the challenges, because the challenges will come in various stages, such as like easy, medium, hard. Let's see how you do with that. It's exactly what I do with my students in real life. So they're going to be exactly doing that in my scheme of work. That's what they're doing. Alan Edwards, cool to see you live. Thanks for the content, dude. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and everything. Kim North, any tips on making a boss battle fun? Yes. Okay, so boss battle fun. So we're talking about game design there. Now, the trick to a good boss battle, and this goes true for most battles, in fact, is you do not want to trick the player. You want the player to feel like they're smart, and like amazing at the game. And the way you want to do that is make a boss battle have a pattern to it, and you want the player to be able to recognize that pattern and then take advantage of it. If they can take advantage of that pattern, that means they make them feel like they're smart, and it makes them feel like they're having fun. So that's why Zelda bosses are great at this, because they are very pattern heavy. They all repeat the same thing 3 times. Do it the 3rd time, boss dies. And that's why those games have always stood the test of time, and that's why Link to the Past is still fun all this time ahead. So make sure the bosses have a pattern, and you can definitely complicate things up and have phases, and when they have that phase change, you change the pattern up slightly, but what is always good is you don't change it completely, that you evolve the pattern. Okay, maybe add an extra step into it, add an extra environmental problem into it, so like pools of acid on the floor, for example, stops the player from maybe using the previous tactic. You want the player to feel like they are smart. If you make the player feel like they're smart and can solve the problem, then that's it. So treat a boss battle as a puzzle. That's my tip for that. Round Earth. Should I put sounds in my animation or the blueprint? Depends on the sounds. Both are fine. Totally fine. Shane Ruetz. Hey, so if you wanted to spawn a particle effect on a hit scan hitting a wall, but move it along the hit scan line towards a player a little bit, how would you do that? We actually cover something quite similar to this on our Shooter AI series when working out cover. You want to use the normal. So on the hit scan, you have an impact normal. That normal is the direction of the face of the wall that you've hit. So you just do another line trace from that normal in that direction and calculate a certain distance, however long you want to go, and that will calculate that will basically offset it from the wall. But yeah, we actually do that in the Shooter AI series, like episode 7, I think, so like 6 or 7. Yeah, so we do cover. James Jams. I'm on an amino with these things, and it happens a lot. Ambition, oh god, is great, but you have to build up knowledge to be able to make that ambitious project. Yes, you do. An MMO is ridiculously ambitious. And if people forget that games like World of Warcraft and Fortnite, PUBG are made by teams of people, like hundreds of people over many years with lots of money, and for anyone to believe, even myself, to believe that I can make something similar to that in half the time, just me, is absolutely ridiculous. So don't do it. I said, pick something simple, easy to do, easy to make, and you'll find yourself learning a lot more and progressing a lot faster. Be ambitious, yes, but there's a level of ambition you need to make sure you monitor. Don't go overboard with it. So baby steps, okay? We're all getting there, James. We're all getting there. I'm glad the tools have been helpful. So I'm still learning everything, new stuff every day. So I'm glad to be helpful to you guys. Vince Carter, what if you tell the folks that want to make a battle royale to first make a test range instead? Probably keeps them more interested than something completely different. They could do a test range instead, yeah, but it won't be a battle royale, because a battle royale deals with the hard part of a battle royale game isn't necessarily the actual gameplay part, it's the server side structure part and managing that side of things. That's the hard bit. I would avoid doing it because server side stuff is a pain in the butt. Yeah. But yeah, a shooting range, yeah, that could be fine, but then that's a different game. You're making a shooting range. I'm happy to go through that. That's fine, but I would not pitch it to them of how to make a battle royale game. That's immoral. As a teacher, I would not do that. I would not set. I don't. As a teacher, because if you guys have just joined, you don't know, I'm a professional teacher, and as a teacher, it's immoral for me to give false promises to my students, and immoral for me to set them up to fail. I don't ever want to do that. If I'm going to tell a student something, I want to make sure they're going to be successful in that thing. So that's my philosophy as a teacher. I will push my students, yes, but I will not. I'll only push them as far as I feel like they are able to go. Prisium, what's up? Always great videos, thank you. I'm struggling with some logic using trigger volumes that change camera angles in a third-person game. Where those volumes overlap, the logic gets confused. Okay. If you want to change camera angles with the overlapping volumes, I'm assuming that you've only got 2 overlapping volumes. If that is the case, then you just check whether or not you're in the what was the last volume you were in. If it matches the one you're currently in, don't swap. Those words didn't make sense, did they? If you're going from one volume to another, you want to make sure that you are in a volume that isn't the same as your current one. If that is the case, then take the swap the camera. I hope that makes sense. And if you've got loads of them, then overlapping, then you'll set up an array where you have like a timer on it, which basically puts a delay in the volume before it becomes active. Taylor Head, do you know how we can fix the cross dead zone when using a gamepad? I want to make a twin stick shooter and it has dead zones every 90 degrees of rotation. Yeah, you can change the dead zones on your controllers. I'm trying to think where it was now. It's around somewhere. Go to input maybe. No. If I search for it. Dead zone. Yeah, so you see the dead zones here? You can set the dead zones for individual bits. They'll control that. But by default it should be alright. I have to check it out, but yeah, that's how you change dead zones. Alan Edward, messed around a bit with actor components, trying to make my player character BP clean as possible. Yeah, so that's why I'd like doing it. Yeah, so I like using components quite a lot. It makes it a lot easier when I want to make stuff use the same sort of thing. Like inventory, for example. I knew that I'd have chests, NPCs, anything else with an inventory. I can just make an inventory component with it, just drag it on, and done. It's got inventory without having to do loads of extra code. If you find yourself repeating code, then you've messed up somewhere. You want to make sure then your code is in a component, in a function, wherever it may be. So there's another top tip. If you're repeating code, you're doing something wrong. Alan Edward again. YouTube deleted your previous comment. So it was, how do I make it so my survival character inherits from my status component? I'm not too sure what your status component is. I'm going to say your status component is something that has a load of variables on it. In that case, you want to use the construction script. So in the construction script, you get your component, wherever it may be, drag it out, and get that variable, and you just set those variables to the same variables here. I'm guessing that's, without knowing what your status component is, that's what I'm guessing you've done, or want to do anyway. Taylor Head, you have set your dead zones to 0 and it still has them. It'd be interesting to see how you've set up your twin stick shooter controls then. I'll have to have a look at that and have a look, see how you've done that. I'm going to try it out. Thanks, James. I'm a great teacher. Thank you. Prism. Okay, yeah, I'm only worried about 2 volumes overlapping at once. I think we're thinking the same way. I've just been wrestling with getting it to work properly all day. I'll keep trying them all. Yeah, keep hacking at it. I mean, the volumes don't actually need to be massive. I don't know what your world setup like, but if it's like entering a room, your volume doesn't actually have to cover a whole room. Your volume only has to cover the entrance of it. So when you enter go through the entrance, it swaps the camera over, and that's it. You don't actually need to have it covering the whole entire space. It can just cover the entranceway. And as soon as you cross it, it'll trigger it, move the camera, and that's it. And when you get into another room, go through that entrance, it'll trigger that camera and enter it. So you don't actually have to cover the whole entire room with a volume. Alan Edwards, yep, so what you're describing there, health, stamina, spirit, I'll just do it in a construction script if it's meant to read from it at the start of the game. You can either do it there or begin play. Hi Ryan, I'm having trouble with the music change I'm trying to do in my game, where the music changes if you're spotted by a guard. Do I need to make a custom event? You can do. There's like a billion ways of doing this. You can even make a music cue. So sounds, go sound cue. Oh. And in here, you can do, I can't remember this now, branch, that's it. And you can have a sound being played for true, and a sound being played for false, and that goes into there. And your parameter will be whatever you want the parameter to be. So it can be, is spotted, for example. And in your, wherever you're playing it, we'll get play sound, no, play, where is it, play, oh, sound, where is it, play audio, maybe it's play audio. Audio, I can never remember what they call the damn things. Start, so start, no. Oh, what's it called? Is that it? Yeah, play. Wherever you're playing it, you get a sound cue, and from the sound cue you can get the is spotted or get parameter. I have to research this, but it's something like this. Parameter. So you get parameters. No. I have to look it up, but it's something like this. You can make it branch between those two sound cues based on that parameter. So you have one sound being plugged into here, one sound being plugged into here. So it'll play that sound based on this parameter. You have to then call that parameter there. I can't remember how you do it though. I have to research that one. How can I make it so my character can sprint? I've actually got a video on that. Head over to the channel and you'll find it in animation sprinting. That's how you do sprint. Also, I cannot. Kylo Ren, sorry, 26. Also, I can still not work out stealth camo. I haven't got a video for this, but there are plenty of good ones out there. It's a shader, and not shader, a material. And the material, let's make it actually quickly. It's quite a simple one. In that your main thing you're working on is refraction, and that would have to make it a translucent material, and refraction here will be a constant value of whatever you want it to be. Oh no, let's do 1 refraction and do like 10 for example, and opacity 0, and hopefully we see this thing apply it maybe. I mean, there's other things you could do to it, but essentially this is what you're doing. Might have to turn the refraction up a bit. $100, do that. Refraction, by the way, if you don't know from your science class, refraction is how light bends through an object. So that's what stealth camo usually does. It bends the light. I have to click apply. Oh, maybe too high, but you get the gist. It's this you change. Let's do 10. So you can see light bending, yeah. So that's essentially what you're doing there. So I can actually apply this then to my dude right here, and go mesh and put that, say, there and there. You'll then get camo on that NPC there when the shaders compile. So when you have the material done, you have a boolean on it saying is stealth, and if it is stealth, you make the materials this, and that boolean then can be used by the AI to determine whether or not they can see you or not. Pretty much that's it really. Yeah, there's stealth camo material. So yeah. So I'm going back and looking at the chat here. Taylorhead, thanks for taking the time to share your UE4 experience with us. You're welcome. X Draco, how would a spiral session be done in Side Scholars? A 2.5D as in Bloodstained. Sorry for English, your tutorials have helped me out a lot. Aha! So I've actually got this coming up, this video, for my patrons, because I've been wanting to do this for a while and I figured it out the other day. You do it on a spline, and then you take the tangent of that spline and apply it to the camera, and the camera then will rotate with the spline. That's my theory, and it should be working just fine, but that video will be coming out soon for patrons because I want to do it. It's quite a cool one to do. It's also how you make like players run alongside a path, basically. Again, you'll see that video coming out soon. Round Earth. Do I use velocity and make animations play when I press the sprint button in the blueprint or the animation blueprint? So when you're doing velocity, the animation should be on the blend space, and on that blend space you have sprint, you have idle, walk, and sprint all in one blend space, and that blend space then uses the speed from the character movement component, and then uses that to determine whereabouts on the blend space it will play the animation. And I've again got that on my video on the channel. Kuroshiro Uma. Have you ever thought of showing some of your games of your students made and analysing what they did right or wrong, how to improve it, etc., with their permission, of course? I would be very adverse in doing so, because although they may give me like their permission, I don't feel like it's immoral to do that, because I'm not just opening up. I'm not just going, hey, here's this 16-year-old's first game, and here's what I think they've done well, here's what I think they didn't do too well. It makes them feel vulnerable. They may feel like it's okay, but what they may not be prepared for is the onslaught of the internet in the comments and things like that, which I don't want to do to them. I don't want to expose them to that. Their safety is paramount. And their mental safety is just up there, so I wouldn't do that to them. I think if they want to do it, I think they should do it. Put it on the internet for themselves. I don't want to be a vessel for that. I'm more than happy to put my games up and rip them apart. I was been thinking the other day actually of showing my first ever game I made in university, and talking about how horrible it is and what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. I've still got it, so I was thinking about bringing it up and showing you guys at some point. I may do that next week in a live stream, we'll see. Round Earth. How can I get enemies to hit me in a game so I lose health? Do a collision event. Check if the collision is with the enemy actor, and then make them lose health. Check out the tutorials I've got on damage dealing, and you'll find them up on there just fine. Kylo Ren 26. I have the material. It's making it so the guards can't see me. Oh yeah, I've explained that one. Round Earth. How can I get Unreal Engine not to crash on my computer if you know how? It depends what's crashing it. It could be that your computer's not powerful enough, in which case I would imagine you don't have a GPU. So get a GPU powerful enough to run it. Otherwise, I'm not too sure. It could crash for any number of reasons. Unfortunately, I'm not Epic and I do not know what causes the crashes, but the most common one I see is computers not being powerful enough to run it. You don't need a really powerful computer. It can run quite well on quite low spec, but obviously if you run out of memory or your GPU crashes, then that'll crash the engine. For some reason my character's mesh looks jittery as I walk around, but only when on a server. Do you mean your character mesh is jittery on the server side or the client side? I'm guessing you mean the server side, so the remote pawn is looking jittery. Can you confirm that for us, Dave? Yeah, James, exactly. The internet, as you know, all should know, is a dangerous place and judgmental and scary. And I say that I teach 16-year-olds. This is their first time learning games development. It's their first time being exposed to critique, and a lot of time they're scared to even for me to see their work and could critique them and comment on their work. So yeah, I'm very aware of that fact. Yeah. Dave Dumas, on your client, so everyone else on server looks normal. That's strange. So on your personal client, your actual character model is jittery. I don't know what would cause that. That's odd. That might have something to do with something you've done in the code or the animation blueprint. I can't say without seeing it. But that isn't normal. That's something that's happened that you've done in the coding of the actual local player. But yeah. Um, Kylo Ren 26, just as I thought, would be a way of doing self-camo thing on guard's behaviour tree, or would it have to be on his blueprint? It could be on either. I personally would do it on a behaviour tree as a decorator. So a decorator would see whether or not the player has set the is camoed as true. If it's true, then it would ignore that tree and move on. Yeah, unfortunately, Dave, I'm not too sure what to suggest for that. Yeah, James. Yes. As I said, I don't want to do it for them, but I do actually encourage my students to actually show off their work to friends and family, Facebook, like the private Facebook, to get opinions from people they trust, and only to approach the internet if they are fully aware of what it's like out there. But yeah, definitely you have to get some feedback somehow. So yeah, friends and family is the best way to go for that. Can't wait for the beginner series. No, me neither. I'm looking forward to getting it out there. It's got a slightly different structure. It's slightly more produced, and it should be a really good intro to Unreal Engine 4 for people who have never touched it before and want to get started making games. And you actually make a game. I'm also will be providing models and assets for you guys to use for it, so you don't have to worry about modelling. I'll provide all of that. You just have to follow along, make the game, and learn how to make it, and then try and figure out how to do the challenges. And at the end, it'd be nice to see everyone's twists on the challenges and see how they've done it. I'll probably do a video on that, showcasing people's different solutions for that. Because in games, there's tons of ways of solving the same problems. It's all very interesting to see people's different solutions. I've seen some really backwards way solutions to some problems from my students, and they're scared of me seeing their work because I'll see their spaghetti code. I'm like, oh my god, yeah. Adam Sweeney, you figured out the points of interest doors. Any tips on panning the map while zoomed in? Yes. You'd have to get what we call delta position of the mouse. Delta comes up quite a lot in the blueprints. If you don't know what delta means, it means the difference between a value between the last tick and the current tick. So if you do the delta position of the mouse cursor, that would cover how much ground that mouse has made in between the last tick and the current tick, and then you want to transfer that by a ratio of how sensitive you want this to be to essentially pan the map. So you change the UV coordinates of the map in that regard. James, yep, challenges, yeah. So likely try the end challenge. Sounds interesting. It is interesting. I say it's something I do to my students. I give them challenges, and they have a whole lesson to try and figure out the challenges. It's all it is taking everything that you've learned and re-spinning it to try and figure out how you can actually use the tools you've learned to accomplish the task. And eventually, I will say something like, I'll show a solution to it, but let's say there's multiple solutions. I'd be really interested to see other people's. AAAP, sir, can you make a Dead Cells like procedural generation levels? I could, don't know when. There's different ways of doing it. Procedural generation. I'm not too sure on what Dead Cells done. Because their levels vary based on what area you're in, like the sewers or the tower, so they change a bit. But yeah, we can do procedural generation levels at some point. Don't know when, but we will do. There are different ways of doing it, so I'll show multiple ways of doing it. So, Round Earth, what should I make as my first game as a beginner? Because it would seem really hard to make an awesome game as my first game in Unreal. So, your first game as a beginner. Well, I've got a beginner tutorial series coming out. where I'll be showing you how to make a maze game, a simple game where you have to get from point A to point B and collecting a key or two along the way. We'll be adding timers and traps and things like that to expand on that concept and make it a bit more complicated, but essentially a maze game. I would recommend you do something of similar ilk where it's very simple to do, a game that you can design on basically one paragraph. If you can fit a whole game into a paragraph describing what you've got to do to win it and all its rules, then make that game. For instance, Pong is often used by people because it's very simple to do and it's got a defined challenge, a defined goal, and you can probably describe it within a paragraph. So if you can describe your whole game in a paragraph and complete it completely, and its mechanics as well in that, then that'll be the game you make. So as your first game, something as simple as that. So a maze game is great for that. Pong is also good for it, and other similar old-fashioned games like that. Asteroids is not too bad, but there's different ways, different games you could do. But choose something with one mechanic. Kylo Ren 26, have you done a video on how to do cutscenes, like an intro to a game? Have I done one? I have done cutscenes. So check that out. I can't remember if I showed actually the creation of the cutscene. I think I did. So on my channel, if you search for cutscene, you'll find a video about cutscenes. So look at that, and you should figure it out from there. The intro to a game, you literally just go and begin play of a level blueprint and play the cutscene. So you design the cutscene first, and then that's how you make it play at the start. Interactive worlds. Any chance you can teach us how to make a holographic UI like they use in Dead Space? Yep, it was actually in the voting poll for this last month's video poll. It just missed the winning slot. It missed by one vote, but it'll be in next month's poll, and it'll probably win that one. But yes, that is actually up. It's going to be like a holographic keypad that you tap onto to open a door in that tutorial. But yes, we will be doing that at some point. Kylo Ren's, yep, so his first game was a runner, 3 levels, and you had to dodge obstacles. Yep, that would be fine. Infinite runners are quite good for that as well. Abdudi65, do you plan on making a tutorial on how to make a simple hotbar? At some point, yes. It's been on a couple of voting polls, hasn't won yet. But it is on the agenda to make a hotbar for abilities, things like that. I have got an ability system I've been making for a video series in the future. I haven't got it up at the moment, but that is currently in progress, sort of like World of Warcraft style, with a hotbar at the bottom, and you click on it to make abilities appear and do stuff. But yeah. Round Earth, since I've switched from Blender game engine to Unreal, I don't know if Unreal has game logic bricks. Yeah, I don't know, I haven't used Blender game engine, but from what I understand and what you're describing, what you're saying is blueprints. Blueprints are the way you code. So this stuff, are those similar to Blender's game engine code? If so, that's what that is. A lot of people have copied this. Unity copied Unreal's blueprint system for their thing because it's a really easy way to visualize code. Dave Dumas, a procedural building of BP. Yeah, we'll get to that at some point. Making buildings appear procedurally in a world procedurally at some point. Yeah. Okay, gonna start wrapping up in about 5 minutes time. So if you've got any last question you want to ask away. We'll be wrapping up the video stream in a moment because it's getting late and I'm not very well and I would like some rest. Jazz HD. I'm losing track of the chat. How would one go about making a shadow clone jutsu type thing. What's that? What's a shadow clone jutsu? What's that? Let me know what that is. Dave Dumas. Yeah, generated buildings. Yeah, that's easy enough to do. We can do that. Blender will be a limited game engine because it is it only just started being a game engine. Give it a few years, it may be somewhat usable, but yeah. Can you import from Twinmotion to E4? I'd imagine you can. I haven't tried it, but I imagine you could. What should go on a level blueprint versus the player blueprint? So the level blueprint should handle anything to do with the environment, so whatever the world's doing, irrespective to the player or anything like that. So this could be cutscenes, that's what I usually use for that, save points, anything that's going to be triggering enemy spawns, for example, like walking to a location, you take it to lock doors and spawn enemies. That'll be handled by level blueprint. Anything that happens to the environment that is controlling the flow of the game goes in level blueprint. The player blueprint is handling what the player's abilities are able to do. So, like, imagine if you've seen the movie The Truman Show, think about Truman being the player blueprint, so he can control what he can do, and the level blueprint is the god of that world. He can control what's going on in that world, and what the script's going to say, and what's going to do. That's a good way of describing it, I guess. How can you make a pause screen? I've got a video on that, Round Earth. Check out the channel. There's a video on it on my channel. Okay, I think we're going to start wrapping up there, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and we went on for a lot longer than I thought we were going to do today. So feeling really rough at the moment. But thank you for sticking around and asking your questions. And we're doing this every week, a live stream. Each live stream is on a rotation. So next week's live stream is going to be continuing making that game. So we are making a game live. We're trying to anyway. We're trying to remake Zombies Ate My Neighbours from the SNES and the Genesis Mega Drive era. So look, we've done one episode of it so far. That archive is available to everyone to watch right now, and we are going to be hitting up the second episode of that next weekend. So join us next weekend where we start making more of that, and after that we'll be doing another case study, and then back round to a UE4 tutorials, another question time, and therefore carry on with our rotation. The archive for this video will be going to patrons first thing tomorrow morning, and will be available to everyone freely in 2 weeks' time. Also coming out tomorrow freely will be the archive footage from the case study in Apex Legends, I think it is. Yes, Apex Legends. So that case study will be coming out of the live stream that we done 2 weeks ago for everyone to watch freely as they wish. Thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you head over to my channel and subscribe. And if you want to support me and this channel and everything I'm doing here, head over to patreon.com/RyanLaley. I'm hoping at some point eventually I'll be able to do this full time and be able to make lots more interesting content with you. I've got loads more content coming up with some exciting surprises coming out soon. More to come on that in due course, but keep an eye out for the introduction to our beginner series, and don't forget to watch the Shooter AI tutorial series that has started freely on YouTube. If you want to watch the other 8 episodes, head over to patreon.com/RyanLaley, where you can watch those right now for just $1. That is it. Thanks anyway for everyone for coming by, and good night everyone, or good morning wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.